Hello, boys and girls. It's Little Red Riding Hood. How are you doing today? How many people are watching? How many adults? How many children? If you'll comment down there in the comments below, that will help our statistics. I'm reading Pay Attention, Carter Jones by Gary D. Schmidt. We're on chapter 16. What happened yesterday? We left and the butler was trying to convince Carter to write his paper coming from the British point of view, the American Revolution. How would you write your paper? From the British standpoint or from the American? Which side would you take? Well, anyways, we're on chapter 16. It's called A Dry Wicket. Chapter 16, A Dry Wicket. If the pitch has become worn with loss of grass, it may be said to be a dry wicket. This surface usually allows for faster bowling, but it also benefits the batsman, and the bounce is truer, and spins are less effective. A wicket that is especially dry, however, may develop cracks that can be particularly useful to the cleaver spinner. One morning in the Blue Mountains of Australia, I woke up before my father. I tried to get the fire started so I could maybe cook breakfast, but I could hardly get it going since the wood was so wet. I had to wait until he got up. He mumbled something, and then he got it started like the wood was dry as could be, because that's what someone who's put in his time in the U.S. Army can do. He cooked bacon and powdered scrambled eggs, and we ate them. And we didn't talk much. We listened to the screeching birds overhead, and the water everywhere, and the wind in the high eucalyptus branches. Then we got all the stuff together. My father loaded most of it into his backpack. That was our last morning in the Blue Mountains. I remember the air got the bluest it had ever been that afternoon. When we were climbing out, and then we got in the Jeep and drove back to the city, I cried. We still hadn't told the girls. I almost did the next Saturday afternoon. I almost did. I was standing with the butler and watching Charlie at her soccer match, cheering on as she ran up and down the field. Sometimes she kicked at the ball that was flying past her, but she never touched it. She mostly talked to one of the girls from Ellenville Elementary until they both just sat down and pulled at the grass. When she came off the field, she asked, "Did I win?" And I hugged her hard. On Sunday morning, the butler and I took Emily out to breakfast because she had spent Saturday afternoon not at a soccer game, but with the dentist, who had filled a cavity. So she wanted something special too now. And the butler said we would go to a nice restaurant where they did not serve Ace Robotroid Sugar Stars. And Emily said she wanted Mom to come with us, but the butler explained that she wasn't feeling quite up to that, and we should go along to leave the house quiet for her. So we went. I drove the eggplant, by the way, and the butler ordered steel-cut oatmeal with whole milk for all of us. "Shall we splurge and have cranberries on top?" he said. But after he ordered, I said I had to go to the bathroom, and I found our waiter and asked him if he could put Ace Robotroid Sugar Stars on top instead of cranberries. "Of course," he said, and that's what he did. Emily squealed when she saw them. It had been a while. "You have defiled the oatmeal," said the butler to the waiter. "Orders are orders, bud," said the waiter. He nodded at me. Emily got up and hugged me. "You're my favorite brother," she said. "Can you be my favorite person of the week in school?" I hugged her back. The butler did not leave a tip. In the afternoon, we drove to Spicer's You Pick Apples. I drove again, sitting on the cushion to give me greater height. We would rather not attract attention of uniformed officers who may not look kindly upon your automobile skill, said the butler. My mother sat in the back, pretty stiff, holding Annie, Emily, and Charlie with a death grip. "Mr. Spicer," said the butler, "seems to be troubled by both deleted apostrophe and inflections abbreviation." "What's inflectious?" said Emily. "The noxious result of not attending to one's grammar," said the butler, "which of course will afflict no one in automobile." We picked 3 bushels of apples, and then Emily and Charlie decided that picking bushels of apples was boring. The apple stand was selling dreamsicles, and they didn't cost all that much, and the 2 of them had already helped pick 3 bushels of apples, so couldn't they? I went with Annie and Emily and Charlie to buy dreamsicles, and after they'd finished getting orange hands and orange lips, and for Emily and Charlie, orange shirts, I helped the butler carry the 3 bushels to the eggplant. The butler drove home. He said the girls could sit up with him after a proper washing of hands and face, which they did in the water fountain. And then they squeezed into the front seat, and he wrapped the seat belt around all 3 of them. That's probably illegal, I said. I have met the principal of Longfellow Middle School, said the butler. How's that going to help? One never knows how one's association may prove invaluable in unexpected moments, said the butler. I sat in the back, and my mother took my hand. Her hand was cold. Do you remember the last time we picked apples? She whispered. I nodded. Remember how Courier? And that's all she said. That's all she could say. We drove home holding hands, and the green marble was in my pocket, and all we could think about was Courier biting into an apple one fall day, not so long ago, and him finding a worm and spitting it out, and then holding it up, the apple in one hand and the worm in the other, laughing, the rest of us wanting to throw up. I bet you couldn't find a worm, Carter, he said. You win, I said, and he laughed, and laughed, and laughed. Monday morning, I told my mother I was going to articulate the British perspective on the Declaration of Independence. Really? She said. Yup, I said. What are you going to say? That the Declaration of Independence was a marketing scam. Long pause. A marketing scam? Yup, I said. Do you think Mr. Salaska will be okay about this? It's his assignment, I said. How do you think everyone else in the class will react? They'll figure out I'm trying to think objectively in order to discern and express truth instead of parroting centuries-old propaganda, I said. My mother looked at me. Sure they will, she said. Annie and Charlie and Emily and I got in the eggplant to drive to school. Emily could hardly wait to get there because she was going on a field trip to Marysville Fire Station. That will be splendid, said the butler. Charlie was giving a report on E. Nesbit, who was now her favorite author in the whole world. Proving, said the butler, that we are all capable of growing into discerning readers. Annie was trying out for the 5th grade girls football team during her gym class. You mean soccer team, I said. Football, she said. Then she smiled at the butler, who smiled back in the rearview mirror. Exactly right, he said. And young Master Carter, what does this day hold for you? I'm about to tell my class that we shouldn't have become independent. Quite right, said the butler. Think of the advantages if you had remained a colony and never taken up rebellion. Like what? You would not only have learned how to speak the language properly, as, for example, the avoidance of abrupt and inelegant sentence fragments, but you would have discovered the glories of cooperation with at the same time becoming aware of calming properties of a good tea. Probably they didn't care too much about tea while they were fighting the American Revolution. Perhaps in a rebellion. That would be so, said the butler. In the midst of great anxiety and great sadness, it takes an honorable man to nourish the goodness around him, small and fragile as it may seem. Is that one of those things you say that's supposed to mean a whole lot more than it seems to mean at first? It is one of those things that a lifetime of reading Dickens and Trollope will annotate. But given the literacy limitations of American curriculum, we should be heartened that experience and the wisdom that comes from it, as well as the adherence to decorum, are good tutors. I looked at the butler. That still sounds like you're trying to convert me into a gentleman. Thank you, said the butler. And that's how I went to school that day, wondering what was so good about stupid adherence to stupid decorum. By the way, I stopped watching for an email from my father. I guess I knew it wasn't coming. Probably didn't know what stupid decorum was either. So tomorrow we will read chapter 17, which is entitled Leg Before Wicket. And today we have learned that by picking apples, we've talked a little bit about curious, some good things about the brother who has passed away. And we've learned how Carter's writing his paper. He's going to talk about the British part tomorrow in school. So let's find out what happens tomorrow. Now, don't forget, it's not too late to sign up for summer reading, www.mccpl.lib.al.us. And you can always go to our Facebook page, and there's a link there that you can sign up at. If you would like to read a book and you're just bored out of your mind, you can either go to Hoopla, you can go to Cloud Library, but you have to have a Montgomery Library card. Now, if you want to check out a book using curbside service, you still have to have a Montgomery Library card. But we will take the book off the shelf, put it in a plastic bag, and put it on the bench that says, "Don't let the pigeons drive the bus." But don't forget, you can call us at 334-625-4844. Thank you so much for tuning in to Pay Attention Carter Brown. And I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.